there.
The weird. That voice freaks me out a little bit. Guys, welcome to the Women Who Wow Women Entrepreneur Panel. We're so happy people are here in spite of the fact that it is like a vacation week, apparently, this week and next week. So thanks everyone for joining. I am so excited for how many people registered and for this amazing panel. It was so hard to limit it to just this group. And I can't believe you guys made the time to do this. So thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute because I have a few slides and I want everyone to get a chance to introduce each other, introduce ourselves. We are going to get into a bunch of really awesome topics, I hope. So somebody give me a thumbs up. You can see the slides. Yes, you guys see them? Okay. So this is a word. Have you guys heard of this word? I don't even know how to say it. Anyone try to help me? Wantrepreneur, like a woman entrepreneur. Katie, you think I'm saying it right?
Yeah, wantrepreneur.
Wantrepreneur. Did you also hear this word? She-session? Yeah, so this is apparently what's been going on during the pandemic, right before, during, and now, with this whole idea that not everybody wants to go back to work at a company or work full time at an organization. People are starting businesses or they, lost their jobs during the pandemic and realized that they wanted to start their own business or do things on their own terms, or way before the pandemic decided I want to have my own business. And a lot of the people here today are going to talk about the fact that they've been entrepreneurs for way, way longer than, the last 16 months or so, which is very inspiring to me. And I want to talk to them about that. So I thought this statistic was interesting, and I know a number of the people on the panel thought it was as well. This was an American Express study, which I was a little shocked about. And Katie, I know when I said this, you were like, wow, that was interesting. So it's a lot of businesses that are women owned. And this isn't necessarily a small bag. I'm a solopreneur, I guess is the word for that. But these are big numbers, right? Did this surprise any of you guys too?
Yeah, 42% is a big number.
Yeah,
it surprised me.
Yeah, me too, right? I mean, it was kind of cool though. I was inspired by it, and I know there are a lot of women who are working for a company, but also have, and we'll talk about this, like a side hustle, and doing their own thing and thinking about laying the framework and the groundwork for this. So I shared with this article with Laura yesterday and we were giggling. This is interesting. So obviously we still face a lot of gender issues and we will talk about this. Women entrepreneurs, some of them are creating fake male assistants and navigate gender biases. I haven't had this problem, thankfully. I'm curious if any of you guys have, but basically they created this fake male assistant to collect payment. I hope none of you have ever had to do this, but they found that was a way to collect money. Sad. Wow. But I also thought this was interesting. There's huge opportunities for women entrepreneurs. So this is a CNBC article just last month. Look at the second paragraph there. One of the most important things that this consultant was saying to female founders is to bring, quote, their most boastful, bombastic version of themselves into a meeting. The vast majorities of competitors are pretty close to the Silicon Bro profile, which is a 35-year-old white male who's been conditioned to pound on his chest. Which I was like, okay, yeah. Again, we're mostly in the legal industry. I think this is a little different, but I'm sure we have all faced that kind of personality. And I think, again, we'll talk about this. There are unique challenges and opportunities. So what I'm so excited about, obviously everything in my life goes back to LinkedIn. I've met most of these women through LinkedIn or forged closer bonds with them through LinkedIn. And I'm very thankful to LinkedIn and social because of that. So now I wanted to ask each of the women to introduce themselves. So I did this hopefully in alphabetical order, but it was late last night. Shari, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Stephanie, thanks so much for having me. We're only a couple blocks away, so I'm zooming in from New York City, a couple blocks away from you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Shari Belitz. I'm a trial consultant. I own a company called Shari Belitz Communications. And like I say, my case themes are a little more original than the name of my company. I also own an educational company called Encyclopedia. I apply psych to the law. And I started practicing law in the 1990s. It just seems like hundreds of years ago, such an antiquated time. And went back to graduate school at night, just pursued a dream, went back to grad school to study forensic psych. And then many years later became a trial consultant and started my business at the start of the pandemic in April of 2020.
That's great. Okay, and I have a lot of questions for you, but one of the things about Shari is her social media posts are incredibly unique. That's how she just popped up in my feed one day, and you should follow her. She's got a love for Billy Joel, and a lot of her social media posts have to do with song lyrics and colorful graphics. So they catch people's attention. So you should definitely follow her. You should link in with all of us, please. There's barking going on in the background here. Don't be alarmed by it. It's just par for the course in my life, working from home. Sherine, tell us about you.
Wow, I didn't expect to be next. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherine Clarke, and I am in Toronto, Canada. I'm a corporate trainer. What I do is I help organizations to communicate better so that they can avoid conflict. If they do have conflict, I show them how to resolve it. And what I also do is I make sure that I teach people about leadership, how to be the best leaders they possibly can to get more done and to get more out of their employees so that they're happy and they have, more productive, and also more profitable organizations. That's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, another person I met through LinkedIn, and I'm so thankful.
Same here.
Charlyne, Fabi.
Yes. Hi, I'm Charlyne Fabi, and really based in Chicago, although since the pandemic, been moving around and taking that opportunity. I am a co-founder of Right Hat. My other partner is Eleni Sams, and we also have another partner, Georgina Teagle. So we truly are a women-owned business. And my background is in creative. So I am, like I said, the executive creative director. So I oversee branding, marketing. So we do websites, logos, anything that you can think of in terms of collateral, things like that. So I got into legal probably 10 years after consumer. So I have a consumer background as well. And, really happy to be here to kind of talk to other women entrepreneurs and others who really want to network and kind of sort of lift everyone up. I think this is a great webinar. So glad to be included.
Thank you. And I met Fabi like 20 years ago when I was just starting out in legal marketing. And it's one of those things that we were making print brochures back in the day,
right.
And we have really changed. That was a long, long time ago.
Yes.
Okay, Jen Klyse.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Klyse. I started my business as a consultant. So I'd been consulting into law firms for a number of years, 12 years before I did this. And I focus a lot on data and business of law applications. So I have a background on the technology side. And I really try and help firms, any of my clients. So I have law firm clients, but sprinkling of, accounting firms and consulting firms, things like that. But I try and help them figure out what the answers are that they need to get out of their technology, and then figure out where do those answers live now, and how do we bring them all together to actually create something that's meaningful and that solves the problem that people are trying to solve with the technology they're implementing. It's Stefanie, when we were co-hosting a LMA Tech conference. We might have done more than one of those together, but a number of years ago. And I'm really, really happy to be here and happy to share any thoughts. And I'm excited to be in this group of, oh my goodness, amazing women. So thank you.
Awesome, Jen. And my little story about Jen is that we were put on this committee together, and Jen and I are very different. Right? I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert. I talk a lot, and she's like, oh my God, could she stop talking? But we're both strong women, and we both saw the value in each other, and we both saw that we could work together, and we just had to figure out a way to do it. And we wound up hitting it off and realizing we were very different. And I think it's just another testament to the fact that first impressions aren't always what they seem, and women can be strong and also find ways to work together and support each other. So it's just one of those great situations where there's more than meets the eye, and you just really can get to know someone better once you start working with them. So I'm very thankful that I met you, Jen.
As am I.
Another woman I'm very thankful to have met who, if you hear her story, which Laura, I wonder if we can get a copy, is that copy of your presentation available to the, yeah, okay. So Laura did this presentation for Susan Freeman's Empowering Women Conference. I think that was what it was called, which blew me away. And I was like, you have to be on this webinar. So Laura, tell us about you.
Well, I'm very happy to be here and be a part of this amazing group. I am the founder and CEO of Leopard Solutions. I too have a very important partner, Mary Ellen Koza, and the two of us own and run this company. And it too is a woman-owned company. We have the seal of approval, which took forever to get, but yes, we are a woman-owned company. We do data research on attorneys and law firms. We provide intelligence, competitive intelligence, business intelligence to law firms. I am a serial entrepreneur. This was the one idea in my history of starting businesses that really took off and worked. And it has been a headache, a joy, a triumph, and a journey. And we are thrilled to be doing some exciting new work, and I'm happy to come to work every morning, and I wish everyone else could feel the same.
I love that. And I think that's a great litmus test to really take stock of your life and where you are, and to decide whether it is, someone said to me yesterday, why they became an entrepreneur? One of them was like, well, I don't want to work for someone anymore. And I had all these ideas and I didn't know what to do with it. And I wasn't happy. And I think, like being passionate is a really good thing. And Laura, we're going to talk about how you got into this and the fact that like you didn't give up and you kept going and you had these other ideas. And this sort of was something you fell into. So let's stay tuned for her story because it's really interesting. So speaking of interesting, Katie, why don't you tell us about you?
Hi, everybody. And wow, what a great group. I jumped at the choice to be, or the opportunity to be on this because Stefanie and I, okay, so we met through LinkedIn. I post a lot about mental health in the legal industry and like toxic work environments and all that. And I think that's what drew us together. And anytime I have the opportunity to try to do like female empowerment stuff, I am all over it. I own two companies. I own my law firm, which covers mostly non-compete law in the tech industry in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and that's called Lipp Law. And I started that before the pandemic in 2019. It's all virtual. And it's just so funny how the legal industry has changed like within the past couple of years forcefully because of the pandemic. Now everybody's kind of working remotely, but when I did it, it was like, people would kind of look down on me for doing it. And now it's like, oh, well, that was smart. And I'm like, well, thanks. And then I started Law Practice Queen the same year I started my law firm in 2019. Law Practice Queen, it was basically me coaching myself 5 years ago and telling myself like, I can own a business. I can do all the things that my male colleagues are doing in law firms. And so I help primarily female lawyers level up in their legal career. And it's just such a passion project and an honor to do. And it totally aligns with Women Who Wow. So I'm just so happy to be here, Stefanie. Thank you.
I'm so glad. So Katie's a great example of an entrepreneur. Like just also like people said to me, like, you can't go start your own business. You're young. And Katie and I've talked about that. Katie's pretty young and she got off the big law firm track and decided to go start her own law firm. And I became a consultant, and there's this, I think ill-advised kind of rule that you can't be a consultant unless you're much older. And I think that that's not true. Also, we can all go pivot, right? I could go back to a law firm at some point or go work for a company again if I found the right job. And Katie could go back in-house if she wanted to, which I don't think she's going to, but we all can pivot, right? And Katie's got this other side thing, which is great. And I think really interesting, starting this other product. So, I'm starting a course, right? That I'm going to do with Frank Ramos, who, if you're not following, you should follow him. I think he has the most LinkedIn followers, like almost of anybody I know, but you can make money doing other things. So we're going to talk about that, but Katie, you inspire me every day and you should follow her. Her posts go viral. My posts don't go viral like Katie's posts. So I need to do what you're doing. Oh, speaking of me, here's me. I was in law firm marketing as a law firm marketer for almost 20 years. And then I lost my job in October 2019 because I worked for a law firm that wasn't very supportive when I needed support. And I was going to just do consulting for a little while, and it turned into a career. And I had a lot of great people who wanted to have me help them. And here I am. And I'm happy in doing it and have no reason to stop. And thankfully, the work keeps coming in. So you can do it, if you want to. And I went to grad school, like someone else said, at night. I did it. I worked full time. One of the benefits of law firms is that they'll pay sometimes for your education. So do that. Sullivan and Cromwell financed my graduate degree, which I'm very thankful to them for doing that. So those of you who work at a big law firm, there are benefits to working at big law firms like that. And I started Women Who Wow because I have worked with a lot of really terrible women and great women, and I wanted to provide a forum for women to just thrive and support women, and that's where we are right now. So someone asked me if there was a fee to participate in Women Who Wow in terms of being profiled, and I was like, no way, these are free. So, and if ever I charge, it's for charity. So just FYI. Okay, Deborah McMurray, someone I've also known for 20 years or more. So Deborah, please tell us about you.
Thank you, Stefanie, and thank you guys. And it is a delight to be with like-minded and bold, interesting, courageous, funny, fun women. What's better than that on a Tuesday in the middle of the summer? I founded Content Pilot in January 1st, 2015, we just celebrated our 15th anniversary in 2006. And then the Great Recession came around the corner, and my then husband decided he wanted to also go through a divorce. And I went through the first 4.5 years of Content Pilot and not taking a salary. Now, I would not recommend that to anybody in the middle of a recession and so on. So sometimes things pile on, and I think what we will probably some of us share today are the circumstances in our lives where we've had plenty piling on, but we keep finding a way out, and we keep finding the light that we are searching for. And I think having an absolute sincere belief in that light, that there is a, sort of a promise of something more joyful and more promising for us. I think that is exactly what ultimately drove me. And we have 24 employees now and work with some of the most interesting law firms of all sizes around the country. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud of my team. My first career was as a freelance classical flutist. So I have been an entrepreneur in one form or another most of my life. And that it's surprising how often in my work today, I actually rely on things I learned all those years ago, 30 plus years ago. And I'm grateful to have that kind of, that sort of different discipline in my background. So thank you.
I love that. And I know we've got, so Laura is a professional actress. I was a writer and editor for a major women's magazine. I know we've got, I'm curious to know some other careers that we've had. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but I think it all makes us who we are. I don't know that anybody ever says, you know, maybe some people say I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. I don't know that anyone ever says I want to be in the legal marketing field necessarily when I grow up, but we'll get into that. But Deborah also is someone you should follow and is so generous with her time and her counsel. So I'm very thankful to have sat next to you at a dinner 20 years ago and been introduced to you. So you never know, right?
That was a great dinner. Good bottle of wine, I'm sure.
It was, and the dogs agree as they're barking. Another person I am so glad to have met and representing the Boston area, which we didn't get to talk about, is Deb Scaringi. Deb, hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for including me in this amazing group of women. Wow, it's amazing actually to be involved. So I, as Steph says, I am from Boston. I am a marketing consultant. I work with lawyers and law firms and some other professional services to help build visibility, to help build networks, and to help them ask for more business. So my practice is split right down the middle. I do Marcom and I also do business development coaching. So it's a really interesting mix for me. I've been doing this for 14 years after being laid off from an in-house marketing job during that great recession that Deborah was talking about. I would never look back. At first, I was like, I'm gonna just do it for a year. We'll just see what happens. I had a 6-month-old. It's my third child. I was like, oh, good God, what am I gonna do? And I was like, let me just try it for a year. Well, 14 years later, I would never change a thing. I think it's been wonderful. And so it's really a great pleasure and honor to be here with this group.
Yeah, that's awesome, Deb. And it's sort of like where I am. It's like, it would take a lot for me to go back in house, although I've gotten a couple jobs.
You never say never. Yeah,
I know. And it would take a lot though. It would take a lot. I'm glad you're here. And last but not least, Olivia, how are you? Thank you for being here.
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I am a former criminal defense attorney and big law civil litigator turned certified life coach. I found coaching when I was working in big law and really fell in love with it. And now I specialize in coaching attorneys who are over the overwhelm and want to live lives with less stress and far more fulfillment.
I love that. And Olivia, you said you're really busy. So there's a lot of lawyers who need coaching. And I think and so we had a call the other week. I spoke on, you should tell us about Thrive in 5.
Every June, I host a 5-day virtual summit called Thrive in 5. And I designed a virtual conference for attorneys that covers all of it. That's really emblematic of my coaching practice. Of course, I coach people on time management and work-related stress, but how we do one thing is how we do everything. So as much as we think we can compartmentalize, we tend to do that ineffectively, and the life affects work. I don't believe in work-life balance, but the personal stuff affects work, the work affects our personal stuff, and I coach on all of it. So I created a summit that's 5 days. We cover literally all of the things. So day 1's mindset, day 2 is all about relationships with people in our lives, with time, with money. Day 3 is all about branding, personal and professional branding. Day 4 is all about innovation, and day 5 is all about leadership. Shari Belitz also spoke this year at Thrive, as did Sherine Clarke. So I was very honored to have many of the amazing women who are here with me today speak this year. And we just wrapped up on Friday. So I'm catching my breath this week.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad you could be here. Okay, so I thought it was important to get to know everyone's backgrounds and have them introduce themselves. And now we're going to delve into a couple of topics. So this is one, I think some folks may have covered it, but I think it's worth getting into. The why. We're going to talk about the how, and maybe we'll combine the two together. Why did we become entrepreneurs? And Deb and I just mentioned we both were laid off, and it was sort of, something we did, right? This wasn't supposed to be permanent for me, but it turned into something. Others were planning it. I'd love to ask you guys, not everybody has to answer, up to you guys, but why did you become entrepreneurs? Was this idea in your head for a while? And then if anyone wants to go into, how did you do it for those people out in the audience who are contemplating doing it? Does anyone want to take a stab at this?
Can I add on to what I was saying before, like how I would never probably go back? I think the why came for me after I had been doing it for a year, because I realized that I loved working with people who wanted to work with me, who chose me, because my philosophy is all based on the fact that relationships are the foundation of everything. Positive relationships are the foundation for personal well-being, personal happiness, professional success. I really think it all stems from there. And so my why came from the fact that, wow, all of a sudden, I really loved working with the people that I worked with. And I can't say that was the case for the previous 15 years that I had been working in legal marketing.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard when you work for a big organization as well. I think you find your passion here too. I'll tell you, if I didn't have people who believed in me, I might have gone right back to working for another law firm, which I thought about doing. And I have had a mentor, and I want to ask you guys later on if you have a mentor, that sort of thing. I'm lucky enough to have had a mentor my entire career, who many of you know. Her name is Wendy Bernero, and she was my first boss in legal marketing and has shepherded me. And I've worked for her at 4 different law firms. And she said to me, when I got fired from my job, you can do this. I will hire you, and other people will hire you, and you can do this. You're worth it. You are experienced, and you need to believe in yourself. If I hadn't had her, I don't know that I would have had the confidence. And she also helped me get an accountant, because she'd been a consultant before. She's now the global CMO at Baker McKenzie, but she knew what I needed to do, and I needed people around me. I also I'm pretty sure I called you, Deb.
Yes, you did.
I'm pretty sure I asked people, like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. How do I get clients? And most of my clients come from LinkedIn, or somehow through word of mouth, or me posting on LinkedIn. I've been very lucky. And I was posting on LinkedIn way before I ever needed a job. And I think you should always be doing that. Always be building your brand, because you just never know, right?
You know what, Steph, you were not lucky. You worked for this. You earned it. You got it because of what you did. You did not get lucky. I honestly believe that.
I agree with that.
None of this is luck.
Right.
Yeah, none of it's luck.
It's hard. I think we all it's hard. I probably just, shot myself, yes, I'm probably, you're right. But I don't know,
you're fortunate. How about that? You're fortunate.
Here's what they say. Successful women say, I've been lucky. Successful men say, I earned it.
That's right.
And women need to start saying, I earned it. And
exactly
feel that way too. Because
Laura. Exactly. Women externalize success and internalize failure. Absolutely.
You're right. Absolutely. The way we talk about it, I didn't even realize the way that I talk about myself just now. And I like to think of myself as a pretty confident person. I never think I'm, an imposter or anything like that. I always think you can unfollow me if you don't like me. You don't have to work with me. And to Deb's point, people have a choice in who they work with, right? They choose you. And that's says a lot, right? So
when people tell you're lucky, just remember that the definition of luck is when opportunity meets preparation. That's it.
Oh, I love that.
I love that.
I love that.
So I believe we make our own luck. We all make our own luck, and that really jives with Sharine's definition.
I totally agree with that. Stefanie?
Yeah, I agree. It's also just being open to opportunity, just to be open to possibility, and not to be so limiting as to, like, I have to go this way, I have to go down this route. And, it's interesting when you sort of introduce this question about why, and I would have to say, I don't know about the other women on this panel, but I know that I was sort of a reluctant entrepreneur, if you will. And, prior to Right Hat, I had a couple of opportunities to be a partner at different, with other people, and to start firms. And I just never felt it to be right. Like, I was fine oftentimes working for other companies. It wasn't until like the opportunity arose, and where I found my partner, Eleni, who said, you know, why don't we start something together? And then I felt like her complementary skills, our skills were so complementary. So I think a lot of that is sort of networking and being around people that also believe in you and you believe in them. And I would have to say, you know, Deb, who's also on the panel, I mean, she presented opportunities for me to work with her too. So I think really a lot of it is just to be open. And then you'll see opportunities come to you. It's just really kind of, and then it's okay if doors close. It's okay if because it's not meant to go down that road. So I just, you know, try not to be too much of a planner is my thing, you know, kind of see what's out there. And, you know, life can surprise you about what's around that next corner.
To add to that, Charlyne, one of my mottos is what is meant for you will not pass you. And so it helps you to kind of let go and like let go of the expectations of how things are going to unfold.
Yeah. And I think as women, we're so used to being labeled and to like try to live up to those labels. And a lot of it is really letting go. And I think that comes, you know, I mean, I'm older. I feel like my younger self, I know that's one of the things that we were talking about, our younger self, that we try so hard to like say, this is where I plan to be, and these are the steps I'm going to take. And it oftentimes doesn't happen. So, you know, anyways.
How did you guys know it was the right time? Would that be like a follow-up question? Like, Katie, what about for you? How did you know? I know you said, I think you told me personally, it was something to do with also wanting to be more around for your daughter, I think, right? The work-life balance was kind of a mess for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually in such a good work environment that I was afraid that if I didn't take the chance then that I would die at my desk. I was like, I'm gonna just die here and regret it. And one of the biggest things was I was so overwhelmed with like the corporate culture at that point. Like we talked about bro culture earlier. That was totally my experience within my law firm. Like I even had a male colleague tell me, he's like, this is not in a bad way, but like, you're kind of like one of the bros. And I'm like, thanks, man. I just really learned to assimilate into that culture, and I was loud, I was outgoing and all that, but I can also be, you know, inquisitive and introspective and quiet. And so I'm kind of like a chameleon, but the straw that broke the camel's back was I wanted to work from home 1 day a week so I could like do laundry and like work in sweatpants and not have to commute. And I was told no. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't sustainable for me. So it took me about a year to plan out my law firm on nights and weekends, like once I got home from my big firm job. And I would highly recommend it to anyone to at least try it. You can, like Stefanie said, you can always go back to your plan B, right? And then at least you die with no regrets. Like one of the good things to look at, what's that book, like the 5 regrets of the dying? Like nobody regrets having tried and failed. It's always like, I wish I had bet on myself. And us as women, sorry, I'm going to rant for a second. Us as women, we're taught, and I think men too, we're taught to like achieve external validation, partner, and other people telling us that we're good. But I don't think we look enough at ourselves and what will make me fulfilled, what will make me happy. And at that point in my life, I wanted to work from home and literally go pick a tomato out of my garden on my lunch break. That's all I wanted to do. And it was just that one little thing that kind of pushed me in that direction.
I love that.
You should have designed your logo, Katie, with a tomato at the center of it.
Yes. It's not
Charlyne could handle that for you.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And let's just say, like, you know, if this legal industry doesn't, you know, adjust to working from home over the past 16 months, like I'm talking about law firms, and, you know, adjust to letting women have more flexibility, they're going to be behind the times. And we've seen that with just law firms requiring people to go back to their office right now. It's just not sustainable. We've reached an inflection point in the industry, and the entire industry has changed. So I hope law firms are listening to that.
Some of them have definitely adjusted now, for sure.
I hope so. I'd love to ask, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sherine.
No, to answer your question about when
Yeah.
to actually leave, anytime, and Charlyne touched on this very briefly. She said that dissatisfaction, you're sitting at your desk, just like Katie said, you feel that dissatisfaction. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not happy here. No matter how many times you try to make yourself happy, it doesn't work. That's because, and I'm going to get a little metaphysical here, that's a universe telling you that there's something else. There's more for you to pursue. That sense of dissatisfaction, that you can never be happy no matter how many times you try, you change a different practice area, you change a different firm, it's because there's something more. So that's what I found.
Yeah. And I'd love to ask Deborah, Jen, and Laura about how they got their big idea also. And anyone else can chime in as well. But you guys, especially like, those who came up with product ideas and novel things, like how'd you come up with that? And then, and Katie also with your software and the Law Practice Queen, like tell us about that and advice to anyone who's thinking about doing it.
I'll jump in. Content Pilot today is a strategy, design, content, and technology agency, and 80%, 85% of our revenues are related to the sale and licensing and support for 3 different products, and website, proposal automation, and experience management. And when I was inside the firm, I was a CMO at 2 different law firms in Texas for 11 years. And there was no automation. There was nothing that would make these jobs earlier. And I was forced, and I say forced because it was such an awful experience, to create our firm's first website in the mid-90s. And it was all hard coded, and we worked with a small consultant who had no idea what he was doing. And it was the most painful, awful thing. And I thought, oh my gosh. And then I had a managing partner who literally said, this whole internet thing, it's not going to last. And so
he was right on that one.
Yeah, he was right on that one. So I left a couple of years later and started consulting, but increasingly, I have a music background, as I mentioned, but so everything I wanted to do was, sort of shape the business conversation in a more creative way and a more strategic way. And so I started really there, and ultimately spent a lot of time doing the branding work that Charlyne does. And Eleni was my oldest friend that I had. So she and I had sort of these parallel careers, and I started consulting as an adjunct for a firm in Washington, D.C., Greenfield Belzer, where Charlyne was and Eleni was. And I learned a discipline really around positioning strategy, which made all of the light bulbs at Yankee Stadium just go exploding. That's how much it was so aligned to, exactly to who I was as a human being. And I'm so grateful to Berkey Belzer to this day for really sharing the knowledge that he had in the discipline, so I could actually, learn it and then take it further and shape it in a new way, which is what we did. And increasingly, websites were a part of a new brand and a brand launch. And the reason I created Content Pilot, as opposed to just continuing as a consultant, was I was competing nationally for big, AmLaw 100 firm work. And increasingly, the IT departments were the ones making these decisions. And they looked at me and thought, well, you're not a technologist. So I was losing work to the big technology development companies. And so I thought, okay, I have to create a company where I have a better story to tell. And I hired developers and so on, and ultimately have 2 partners who I hired that some of Keith Wee and Dan Johnson, and they're just my best pals, and we have such a blast working together. But the how and the why and the when, all of those things were just sort of all married wasn't a decision. And there wasn't, you know, Katie, I was listening to you and saying, okay, it took a year kind of for me to do these sort of things kind of in parallel. And I did not have that experience at all. I just really had to jump in and just, you know, start on day one, kind of making things happen that I honestly didn't really know what. Like Charlyne, I'm not a planner. I'm a discoverer. So I see something and I go after that something. And that has been the path that's really worked well for me.
That's great. Laura, can I ask you to tell us the story about how you got the idea and started Leopard?
Yeah, well, before I do that though, I just want to say about why, because I thought about that question a long time. Why did I become an entrepreneur? I'm going to say something, but it's not what you think. I was lucky because I never thought I couldn't do it. I never thought I couldn't do it. Never, you know, never did I have people standing behind me saying, oh, you can't do that. I actually had an experience where I was running a little industry newspaper in St. Louis, and I started a charity for Cardinal Glennon's Children's Hospital. And after it was an event with 300 people and blah, blah, blah. And I had people come up to me and say, how did you do it? Starting a charity is so hard. It never occurred to me that it would be hard. And it really wasn't that hard. So I think everybody tends to put so many things as obstacles in front of them when it comes to, you know, doing something like this. So many people don't do it. There are lots of people out there with an idea, with a business idea, but most of them never get started because they don't take the first step.
Yeah.
If you look at every challenge, like it's Mount Kilimanjaro, you'll never climb that mountain.
Yeah.
But if you think of it as one step after the other, one step after the other, you'll get to the top of that mountain. You know, and like somebody else said earlier today that there were lots of things they learned on their path. Well, the same was true for me. I had many businesses. Some of them were a little crazy, but they were fun, and I learned something along that way the whole time. And all of those tools I brought with me. You know, when I started Leopard Solutions, never in a million years did I think it would grow, you know, to what it is now, and I'd be doing it for 20 years. I never thought that at all. But ideas were always easy for me because I'm a creative person. Ideas are coming. It's picking one and saying, okay, I'm going to try that. Okay, I'm going to do this. And then afterwards, it is the stick-to-itiveness of really doing it, really getting out there and doing it. And when I, you know, had been doing Leopard Solutions for 5-6 years, I had lots of legal recruiters come to me and ask advice because they wanted to open up their own recruiting shop. And I could always tell instantly the ones that were not going to do it. I have to have a big office. I'm going to need a reception. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this. You have just talked yourself out of doing your business. You just got to do it. You just got to start it. That's how it begins. You know, for Leopard Solutions, I was an actress in New York. I was doing, like, I had a little day job where I was doing cold calling. And a friend of mine was a recruiter, and we knew that the data surrounding attorneys was really pretty bad. And we said, oh, we can do it. And when we first, this is how long ago it was, but also it's such a lesson how quickly the world changes. When we started talking about it, there were no law firm websites. We were going to have to call up every attorney and be like, what's your practice area? You know, that kind of stuff. And then, you know, a few years later, websites came into being and we're like, oh, we can really do this now. And then that's how we started. We had no technology. It was all sweat equity. We looked at a website, we typed in what we saw. It was ridiculous. But technology caught up, and then we were able to harness that to be able to do what we you know, did so much better. And the world has changed completely. So what was started as a data company is now like a tech/data company because we have so much, you know, tech involved with us. And for me, a creative person, it is the greatest thrill ever to go to my people and go, so this is what I'd like to do. Can we do this? And they'll say, yeah, I think that can be done. Or sometimes they'll say, oh, I'm not sure we can, but you just kind of keep pushing until you can figure out a way to do it. And that to me is one of the greatest things ever, is seeing, and even through all my little crazy businesses, it was seeing an idea take shape and come to life was the most thrilling thing ever, you know. And let's also remember, I'm not doing all those other businesses. So at some point I had to say, well, this isn't working, or this really isn't worth the trouble that we're going to, it's not worth this. So at some point you have to be able to say, no, I'm ready to try something new, and pull the plug on something that's not going to be, you know, really viable in your life. If it's your hobby, it's your hobby. But if you want it to be a business, it has to be a business. So there's lots of things you learn along the way. And Leopard Solutions was one of the things along the way that really took fire. I knew nothing about the legal industry. I do now. I've been doing it for 20 years. You know, Malcolm Gladwell says 10,000 hours of working at something makes you an expert. Well, I got those in pretty early, because it was, all I did was work. All I did was work for the first 3 or 4 years. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. It paid off. But the first step in any success is just getting started. Just getting started.
Yeah. And I think it's also like knowing that there's a need in the market for something, which there was, seeing the opportunity. And then, like you said, and I think Deb McMurray has also done this, like hiring people to help you carry out the vision. I'm sort of there at a certain point where I'm going to need to grow in order to do the things I want to do. So, you know, so figuring out when you need to scale, when you need to grow, that sort of thing. I'm curious for all of you, you know, whoever wants to answer can take this, but what are some of the challenges you think we face as women entrepreneurs? What are some of the challenges that you've had to face?
Stefanie, I want to jump in. I think it ties to this question, and it's a follow-up to what you and Laura have spoke to.
Sure.
And I love Laura's point about she never believed she couldn't do it. Neither did I. I always knew, like, in my gut, like, yeah, you can do this. However, you said earlier that, like, you don't know if you would have taken action had you not had a mentor, had you not have someone telling you can do this. Yeah. And I'm pretty passionate about, so I'll take a page out of Katie's book and rant. Like, I was in big law. I had a very prestigious job. I worked at the best firm in the state of Michigan. I made a lot of money on paper, especially for the only child of parents who are self-employed. And I was making as much as my parents do. And then I was like, yeah, I'm going to blow all that up and become a life coach. And we have really candid conversations now. Like, they were not supportive. I'm not trying to be mean, but they were not on board. They did not agree. And they were like, you're insane and you're going to ruin your life. And I speak really passionately about this because, like, is it great to have other people's support? Sure. It'd be awesome for people to buy in and co-sign and be like, I believe in you. You're going to do this. You do not need it though. So and I think for a unique challenge that women face, especially, is like, a lot of men aren't going to be your cheerleaders, whether it's your dad or whether it's your spouse or whether it's your friends. Like, you need 0 people on board with whatever your vision is. The only person who has to believe in you is you. And I got to a certain point with my dad. He was calling me and, like, pitching me other business ideas. And I was really starting to get some traffic and traction with what I was doing. And I finally, like, it just clicked in my head. I was like, he's so scared for me. And I was like, oh, I see. Like, I can see your fear and I can hold space for it. I was like, you just lack belief. And I just said to him, I was like, you think this won't work, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I think you're crazy. And I was like, oh, I totally, like, we're good here. I believe in this enough for the both of us. So, like, I always tell people that believe in whatever it is you're doing enough for you and them. Would it be lovely for them to support you? Sure. But we can't control that. People are going to doubt. That's okay. Believe in what you're doing enough for you and for them.
I love that. You just inspired me so much, Olivia. Like, I believe it. We're getting some comments from the audience about silence, the naysayers and the noise, and it's absolutely true. Sometimes I don't tell my family and friends things I'm planning on doing until after. Like, my mom, who passed away, she was very much, a teacher, not risk taker. My family doesn't really understand the things that I do, and that's okay. And what's good for me isn't necessarily good for other people. You have to go your own path. And that's okay, right? What's good for me isn't necessarily good for other people. This isn't what, it's unique to us, right? And I understand exactly what you're saying. Also, like I said, I mean, some people say like I was a little young to do this. Like, who are you to be a consultant at your age? I know my stuff. It's not that I wasn't confident in my ability. I was nervous if I could do this forever, or just that I was so used to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. What scared me was not having a regular paycheck, being my own brand, being my own person, having to depend on myself, supporting myself. I'm not married, so it's scary, all of those things. And so that was nervous. I was nervous. It was a risk. It was a big risk for me. I like the cushy paycheck from a law firm, So
yeah, I think you have to get to a point where you say, hey, this is scary and I'm going to feel afraid, and I'm going to feel, for me, my biggest emotion that I had to overcome was embarrassment, because I was a prestigious, on paper attorney. And then I put myself out as a life coach, and I was so afraid of what other people, especially my really prestigious former colleagues, would think of that shift. And whether it's fear about the, temporary, I'm going to really emphasize temporary here, because I have more job security, more financial security than I would have ever had working for other people. I will make a wildly larger amount of money as an entrepreneur. And I speak very openly about that. And I think women should talk about making wild money and normalize that. But there's temporary fear there. And there's temporary uncertainty. You can go on to create your own certainty. There's temporary embarrassment. You got to gag and go your way through it in order to just put one foot in front of the other and start taking action. And eventually your traction will catch up with you and you'll start creating.
I think one of the things about fear, I mean, that's part of the creative process. I always tell my designers, if you don't fear, then you're not going to be creative. And part of it is like, you cannot fear failure. You're always going to fail, and you have to think about it in terms of that. I mean, Wright has been around for over 15 years, and we've gone down some avenues. Some have been great, some haven't, but you have to try different things and just to see what works. And if you are so fearful of ever making a mistake, I mean, perfectionism is really, a barrier to progress in some ways. You can't expect, like, when you go out and start something, that it'll succeed or it won't succeed. Maybe it's just you take a different direction. And that's, again, what I say, you got to be open. You got to see what's out there, and you got to see, I think one of the questions that Stefanie had asked is like, what happens, or what do you do with failure? I said, you learn from it. That's what you do with failure. You don't, try. I mean, of course you dwell on it, but you've got to move on. And you use it for what it is. I mean, we talk about the Great Recession, that was a tough time for us as a company. And, I just looked at it and go, okay, it sucks. So I am going to spend, I went to Asia for 3 months. I was like, fine, there's nothing going on. I will take this opportunity to do something else. And so, and then come back when business starts up again. But that really is sort of looking at where the opportunities lie, even in failure. So
yeah, I agree. Can I ask you guys each to share with us something you wish you could tell your younger self? Mine would be to just stop worrying how it's all going to turn out, and to believe in myself a little bit more, and to not have a plan. Because, and also to Olivia's point, right? We care so much about what other people think, right? You cared about what other people were going to say. So did I. But here's the reality. People only really care about themselves. They care about you for a second, and then they're focused on themselves. I always would worry about that. I would put something out on social media, or I would do something. I would worry, like, when I got fired from my job, I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to know. You know what? Maybe they knew, they thought about it for a second, but then they cared about themselves. So I'm focused on me, my life, the people around me who support and love me. And then that's it. And the rest of it is noise. So I wish I could have told myself to care about me and the people who are focused on me, and to just silence the other stuff. The other thing is, I'll just add, is that you don't have to be perfect at everything. You don't have to give 100% to everything. Your good is good enough, usually. Okay, So everyone's got to chime in on this. I want advice, and you'll see some pictures of a number of us here from our formative days.
Stefanie, I'll jump in. First, I want to say to my older self, or to my younger self, lose the 80s hair. It wasn't doing anything in the 80s, and it certainly wouldn't be doing anything now. This is me in the little short shorts. Wish I could still wear those. But anyway, what I would say to myself is, if you have a vision, and this kind of amplifies what you and Olivia were saying, if you have a vision, just go out there and do it. I had a vision that I could teach litigators how to up their game using psychology. And I just got out there on LinkedIn last summer, and I would, every single post I would do would show them how to do it. I wouldn't really promote myself. I wouldn't say I could do this great, I could do that great, I'm speaking it here, I'm speaking there. I would actually show them how to apply psychology to litigation, because I had this vision and I believed in myself, and I believed that I could express this passion and I could really show them what I knew. And my mom had whispered to me before the bar exam, before I took the bar exam in 1998, she called me up to wake me up and she whispered, show them what you know. And I just took show them what you know. And every day I got out there on LinkedIn and I show them what they know, what I know. And I still continue to do that every day. And summer of 2020, I got a call from my first large trial consulting contract. And ever since then, I originally started out wanting to start an educational company, but I got a trial consulting contract. I pivoted, and I just kept on with that. And later on, I started that educational company. So I think I'd also tell myself, and to the point I think it was Charlyne made, like, you have to be kind of flexible. I wanted to start this educational company, but I was given a large contract to work on a large case. So pivot, go do that, and I'll start the educational company when I have time. So what I would tell myself, besides losing the 80s attire, never very flattering, is just get out there and show them what you know. When you show them what you know, instead of just tell them, people are going to come to you. They're going to understand your vision. They're going to want to work with you. I have probably 90% of my clients from LinkedIn and from showing them what I know every single day.
I could not agree with you more, Shari. Like, show them what you know is like such a great thing. And it's the key to my success and on LinkedIn. And there's never, if you have any doubt about oversharing on LinkedIn in terms of giving people helpful content, never feel that way, because people still need to hire you to implement, and they want more of your ideas. So share, share, share. And you're very unique and memorable. And I think that people may say the same about me. Don't be vanilla on LinkedIn either. Be memorable and be unique. Okay, so who would like to go next?
I can jump in, Stefanie.
Yeah, Jen.
So I think it's interesting, because as I've been listening to all of these women who are, really had a vision and focus, and like saw something they wanted to go after and went after it, regardless of, obstacles and things in their way, I'm sitting here thinking, wow. So I had completely polar opposite experience. And so I've been making notes of, okay, now I need to write something for LinkedIn to, when I distribute this, is like, here's the other's perspective of this. But I think the thing I would tell my younger self would be to think about the worst when I'm stressing out about making a move. Think about the worst possible thing that could happen. And when I started my business, before I started it, I had a major panic attack in my therapist's office, like on the ground, like shaking, I can't do this, I can't do this. And the next day I talked to one of my college roommates she and her partner had started a business. And they were like, well, Jen, what's the worst thing that could happen? if you start this and it doesn't work, what is the worst thing that could happen? I was like, well, then I have to go get another job. It's like, well, okay, so you've been working in this industry for 30 years, probably you can go and get another job. I was like, oh, well, that's true. And it just took that piece that came off that piece of imposter syndrome and a whole slew of other things that were really, really huge for me. So all of the talk about, oh, I never thought I couldn't do it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's all I thought about. That's all I still think about with this. But flipping that and saying, so the absolute worst thing that can happen if this fails is embarrassment, to Olivia's point, but then I have to get another job. Like, well, okay. So, you know, you tell people not to catastrophize too much. But occasionally what I would tell my younger self would be, figure it out. Open the door, figure out what that worst, biggest fear is that you have, that you completely fail. And then what are you going to do? And the answer for me was get another job. It's like, well, okay, that I can do. So this is all really scary. That's really easy. So I can do all of this scary. And if it doesn't work, I do this. So I think that's what I would certainly encourage myself not to do that by, catastrophizing about the first day of school or the first day of college when I had, a 45-day countdown calendar in my bedroom before going to college and anxiety dreams all over the place. Not that, but to really, really look at it and say, you know what, if this doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that is not the end of the world.
Yeah, I love that. So don't catastrophize.
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 I'm sure that's Webster would recognize that as a word, but it is my word.
Tomato eyes. I agree with you. What's the worst thing that can happen? Because very often that's not going to happen. And even if it did, you're right. Like, you could get another job. Yeah, okay. And you will be okay. And if you want to be an entrepreneur and you're worried about finances, do it now. So Katie said it took her a year, right? To like save or get everything in place or build the structure. I didn't have the luxury of that. I was sort of thrown to the wolves, right? If you are thinking about doing this, plan ahead. I know people who are taking some side jobs, obviously make sure your employment contract or you're able to do that, but set the wheels in motion now. Come up with that great idea. Maybe you want to write a book or come up with a course or just do something. Put the wheels in motion for the future. Put feelers out there. There are things you can be doing now to pursue your goals for the future. And yeah, we will do we should do a part 2, Olivia. I agree. Let's do a part 2. Okay, so Charlyne, what would you tell your younger self?
I would say, don't be so serious. I mean, and I was a very serious child. I also think that, you got to enjoy the moment. Yeah. I feel like the last 15 or so years of Right Hat, I think about it, I go, it's like a blur. It's a blur. And there are times where I really needed to stop saying, what's next? What's next? I think as ambitious women, we tend to we worry about the future and what's next, as opposed to just like, wow, this is actually really cool. The people that I have around me, the work that I'm doing, enjoy it. Enjoy the journey.
I love that. Enjoy the journey. Stop and enjoy the journey. By the way, the work will be, what Wendy Bernero used to say to me? No one died in what we're doing. Usually no one dies, right? It'll be there tomorrow. Nobody died. When sub partner would yell at me or something would go wrong, she's like, did anyone die today? I'm like, no. And that was a good way to put it in perspective. So like, just leave it. And like, it's okay, right? It's still going to be there tomorrow. It's like, we're not saving lives, are we?
The parallel, I heard you mentioned your mentor earlier. And so this was my mentor very early on in my career. But her comment was, we're not heart surgeons.
Right. It's the same kind of thing, Jen, right? We're helping, what we do is meaningful. Of course, we chose this career, but put it in perspective, right?
Well, the worst thing that could happen becomes very different when you're a heart surgeon versus
Exactly.
when you've started your own business. Like
Exactly.
the ramifications are certainly really
Yeah.
different.
Although partners may feel differently, that it is the end
It's
of the
not that it's
world.
not a big deal. Like the legal ramifications of something going wrong are a big deal. But
Right.
it's a very different
I mean,
big deal than heart surgeon big deal.
Exactly. Charlyne, if you use Pantone 471 versus 970, like it could be a really big deal if you put in a different organ in someone, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Sherine, what do you wish you could tell your younger self?
Well, two things. First of all, Olivia has something that she always says. Olivia, when I interviewed her for my summit, and you said, you want to say it, Olivia? It was about there's only two things that really matter. Where are you, Olivia?
I'm here.
Yeah. What was it? Because it's perfect for this. Perfect.
There's only two things that ever matter.
Oh, yeah. When people say that, if you don't get it done, you know, what could there's only two.
There's only four things you ever need to do. Eat, drink water, sleep, and breathe. That's it. So I actually coached a guy on this morning. He was like, he's a transactional attorney, and he was like, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to respond to this email, and I need to call this person back, and I need to get this out before the morning. And I'm like, you didn't need to do a single one of those things. Not a one. You don't need to go home for the holidays. You don't need to spend X amount of time with family or friends or whatever. Everything we have in our life is a choice, unless it's those four things. Identify it as a choice. Remind yourself that you're exercising agency, and you just dial down the stress, anxiety, and overwhelm so quickly when we realize that we're choosing it, or that we actually want to do all of it, not that we need to do it. Need is a lie unless it's one of those four things.
Yeah, okay. I just love that.
What are they again? Eat,
drink water, breathe, sleep every so often. And I've pushed the limits on that, which I do not recommend at all, but I'm proof that you didn't have to do it all that much because I survived my 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, that really does put it in perspective, I guess.
Everything else is optional. All of it.
Okay.
Even like this is going to be really dramatic, and people are going to hate that I say this, but like there are people in the world. One of the biggest things that I always hear from parents is like, well, taking care of my kids isn't optional. Yes, it is. There are people that like take their kids and leave them someplace and they go and live on the other side of the world. Like, I'm not recommending anyone do that at all, but like, it's a choice you make every day. Going to your job is a choice you made every day. When is the perfect time to become an entrepreneur? When that choice is no longer tolerable. That's what made the shift for me, at least. But recognizing that like we choose all of it.
I'm surprised that like drinking wine is optional here.
It is.
It's not for me. It's not.
No, not for me either. I mean,
so what
I'm seeing a lot of people shake their heads. Okay, so
when you're on the other side of the people leaving their kids and going off somewhere else, when you're on the other side of that, you really, really, really need the wine. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's what's in those cups that they carry. I would have to say what I would tell my younger self, this is something that always stopped me until I learned not to allow it to, was fear. And I always thought you had to be so brave and so courageous, and this absence of fear. Well, guess what? Courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing it anyway, in spite of feeling afraid. And one of the things that I do to really help me is I make sure I read or watch biographies, because you don't know the end of your life. You don't know the end of this journey, but you do know how other people's journey ends. And then it allows you to see that anyone who has ever achieved anything in their life that's worth us to admire has always felt fear. And when I learned that, it freed me up to just feel it, but just step forward and do it anyway. So that's what I would have told my younger self.
I love that. That's a great point. Deb Scaringi, what would you have told your younger self?
So I would tell myself, there is not anything that you can't do if you put your mind to it. You know, I, as a young working person, I worked in a marketing department of a healthcare company, and I was terrified every day. And my first reaction to, can we do this? Can we do that? It would be, I don't know. Because I was so afraid that if I said yes, and then I couldn't do it, that I would be judged harshly. But I have learned over the years that you got to lead with yes. You lead with yes, and then you figure it out, because most often you can. There's very few things I think that we, truly can't figure out either a way to bring to resolution or a different solution or whatever it may be, but to have confidence and lead with yes.
I love that. That's great. Lead with yes. Laura, Leopard?
Well, when I turned 40 was when I put down the baggage of really caring what other people thought about me, and making decisions based on what others might think. And I would tell my younger self, oh, do that much sooner, do that much sooner, be much happier.
I miss the reaction buttons in webinars, Zoom webinar, because I wanted to react to that, give you a yay. I need a
I don't know where, I don't know, maybe I did something, who knows. Katie, Lipp?
So I just came up with a cool quote, which is, don't dull your sparkle because somebody out there needs your shine.
Ooh.
Yeah, girls. Because, okay, so here's the backstory. When I was little, I was bullied in elementary school. And after that, I kind of went through a period where I was just quiet around everyone. I just wouldn't say anything. I was like, if I don't say anything, then nobody will be mean to me. And then I'll just kind of like, blend in. And I think I really did myself, I know I did myself a disservice, because I wasn't being authentically me. And now, for those of you that know me and follow me on social media, like I'm try to be very vulnerable and authentic on social media. I do get some people that are like rare in response, but it's usually people that never would be for me anyways. It's usually, to be honest, like old white gentlemen that are like, I don't like that and I don't agree with that, therefore I do not like you, madam. And so I would just say, like, your vibe attracts your tribe, and just like keep being authentically you, because you never know who you can support out there. Like, I've had people respond to me on social media saying things like, I quit drinking because I saw like your sobriety post. Thank you so much. Like people in India who I've never met before, and it's just, if it's going to help at least one person out there, like that's what it's all about. So I know that's but
I love that. That's great. That's a great, your vibe attracts your tribe. Oh my God. What, guys, we're coming up with these really good ones today. Deb McMurray.
Quotes.
Don't let us down, Deb McMurray. Come up with something just as quippy.
Yeah, I don't know how quippy it is, but my advice would be, and I'm the one in the little jumper with an overly broad kindergarten smile. Mine would be yourself, which is, very much, nobody used the word authentic all those years ago. But I would say, don't be afraid to be weird or different, or, and, kind of embrace the feeling of being a misfit. And it's, those who know me and know my story, I felt like a misfit very much of my young life, and it's certainly early professional life. But what it did is it honed certain skills, just my kind of coming to grips with that over time. I was able to hone leadership skills and hone other skills kind of create a dimension that was frankly more interesting and more evolved, just because I just started owning it, and it sort of became my launch pad. So a misfit, if you feel like a misfit, that's not a bad thing.
I love that. That's great. All right, so let's see. So guys, we have a couple upcoming webinars. July 21st, do I really need to wear real work pants again? I'm so proud of the name of this one. We're going to talk to Melanie Lippman, who I love her post, and it's all about like, I have so many things in my closet and nothing fits anymore. Hi, that's me. I wear pajama jeans all the time now. Katie Lipp knows I've been talking about those. My clothes don't fit. I gained 15 pounds over the pandemic, despite having a Peloton that looks at me and mocks me. If you're in my shoes, come to this. I think it'll be, just like, how do we start dressing again? And then we're gonna do a CMO roundtable, but not your typical CMO roundtable. It's how to adjust to work back in the office and this inflection point. And we're gonna do, are you guys open to doing part two with me?
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, also there are these Spanx pants that everyone's been telling me about that are like these cargo pants that suck everything in, but they don't hurt. So if anyone, the last time we were on a webinar with Katie and Helen, we were putting like our pants suggestions. Most of my clothes are right since the pandemic have been from Target and TJ Maxx. If anyone has any other suggestions, let us know. But comfort is great. I put it together on the top, but on the bottom, it's yoga pants or pajama jeans. That's where I am. Maybe that's why I'm still single. So in any event, I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is such a great panel. And I am thank you guys for putting in the chat that you've also gained weight despite having a Peloton. Kudos to us. Really appreciate that. We're all in it together. The COVID-15. You guys, you impress me. You inspire me. You are awesome. And we're going to do this again. So stay tuned, and thank you for everyone out there. If you have not been featured as a woman who wows, you are welcome to be. Get in touch with me. There is no fee to be a woman who wows, which is hysterical. Maybe I should.
Stephanie, what did you do? You sent me an invoice for it. So like, what was that all about?
Jen, yeah. So please, spread the word, whatever. We are going to continue doing these webinars. I am a big fan of these great, I'm not going to stop going to webinars after we can get together in person, because I still think they're very efficient and a great way to get together with people from all over the country. So Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you,
everyone.
Steph.
Wonderful comments in the
much.
chat.
This was fun.
It was fun.
was
Thank you
really
everyone
fun.
who joined
So the
us.
recording, I'll do a follow-up email and some resources for everyone. So if anyone, panelists, have any books or anything they want to put in the follow-up email, message me and I'll attach everything. So
Great.
thanks guys.
Bye.
Lovely
Bye.
meeting you all.
Bye everyone.